Mm-hmm.
This meeting is being recorded.
Right.
So you're good to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before I introduce today's guests, make sure to like, follow, or subscribe to whichever channel you're watching or listening to. And that way you get notifications every time we have new episodes. And today
Mhm.
I have a very special guest, a good friend of mine. I like to consider her my good friend. We've been
Yeah.
working together as accountability partners, and I just love her energy. She does great work. I have Sarah Udoh-Grossfurthner, and I hope I
Mm.
pronounced this properly because my
Oh
French
yeah.
kind of tricked me. Okay, that's good. So
I know,
Sarah
right?
is on. She is an amazing author, a beautiful story, a powerful message. So thank you, Sarah, for joining me today, and just so we get to talk. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm really excited. I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much for hosting me. And yes, you are a friend. I do consider you a friend as well as my accountability partner. We all need that. Yes, of course.
Yes.
And so, really, I'm looking for, and what a wonderful job you're doing out there. I watch your podcast. I see so many people that I've heard that you've interviewed. So, you're doing such
Thank
an
you.
amazing job. And I'm actually really proud of you because as your accountability partner, I have to put that a little in there. I know you're talking to me today, but I just want to put that little bit in there to tell you, spot on. You're doing a
Uh,
fantastic job. So well done. I'm excited
Thank
to be here
you.
today.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for
Thank you. I really
hosting me. Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially coming from you, I appreciate it. But we're gonna put the spotlight back on you right now. And before we get started with everything that you do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us your story and how you got here.
Okay, well, my name is Sarah Udoh-Grossfurthner. It's already you know that, and I live in Vienna, Austria. But I'm originally from Nigeria. I'm very much full African, and I'm a writer, as you know. I'm storyteller, and
Mhm.
I also sometimes do events. So I sort of wear a whole bunch of hats. So I hope a whole few of them fit. And I'm a mother, proudly one. And yes, I've been writing for a few years now. And my background, of course, is my first degree was in international relations and
Mm.
diplomatic studies. And my second, the one we are kind of like going to be focusing on today, is on professional writing from Cornwall University, Falmouth College in Cornwall in England. And
Mm.
so that's it. I guess you'll be, as we go in, you'll be knowing a little bit more about me. But on the overview, that's who I am, Sarah.
That's amazing.
That's
I
you,
keep
Sarah.
learning. Yeah, I keep learning a little bit about you every time, and I love it. They're so interesting. Uh,
Thank you. Thank
we're
you.
going to be talking about your books very shortly, but you do have this one is called from going from fearful to
Yes,
fierce.
yes, yeah.
And I just that's a beautiful message. It's one of the very powerful one. And you do talk about how on the journey to self-discovery, you
Mm-hmm.
have to step away from the crowd. It's to be able to
Mm-hmm.
find
Yes, of
your true
course.
self.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit, because that's not an easy and it's an ongoing thing. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you would have had to overcome when you decided that, okay, I'm stepping away from the mass, I'm stepping away from the crowd, and I'm going to be me authentically and
Mm-hmm.
unapologetically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what it is. I mean, I once heard someone said that who best to encourage another than someone who has gone through discouragement herself. So when I talk about stepping away from the crowd, it's something that I've had to also learn. And the challenges is part of the challenges I've had to overcome is the idea of knowing who you are. When you know who you are, for example, I'm a people person. I like people around me. And so one of the biggest challenges I've had to overcome is that knowing that sometimes you need to step away from certain people. Like sometimes
Hmm.
you go deep so much into people because you want to be around people so much. And then you realize along the way that certain people that you are around are not empowering you in any way. You can tell.
Mhm.
I think sometimes we tell, but we make so many excuses for why we are in the crowd. You can tell. And when you are around a crowd that's not empowering, it chips away
Mhm.
little by little certain essentials of you. And at a point, at a certain time, uh, you might find it difficult to actually recognize who you are because you're so used to being in this crowd. And maybe in order to want to belong in that crowd, you sort of like maybe you kowtow to certain things that you should not, just because you don't want to be seen as she's funny. Oh, okay, why she's doing that? Oh, she's going to be like this. There's a sort of like underlining message that if in order for you to belong to our crowd, you have to be a certain way. And because you
Right.
want to be in that, you start being a certain way until you sort of like, if you're not careful, you lose yourself. So
Mhm.
part of the challenges that I've had to overcome, and that's the whole point of that book, From Fearful to Fierce, is stepping away from that crowd, knowing that even though I'm a people person, stepping away from certain crowd, knowing that for the period it would take me to maybe find the right crowd for myself, I'm probably going to suffer a little bit. It's sort of
Yeah.
like, like withdrawal syndrome. you know,
Yeah.
you're so used to thinking about people that now you withdraw from them and you start getting, oh my God, what am I doing with myself? Because I'm such kind of like social butterfly. And so needing to know that sometimes you need to step that for your own good and even to be able to give to other people. Because
Mhm.
in order for you to even be give to someone, you need to have. You cannot give what you don't have. So you need to
Yeah.
sometimes that those are the challenges. Some of the challenges, or I would say that is one of the challenges I've had to overcome. Knowing
Mhm.
when to step away from a certain space or people or crowd or relationship even, and saying, you know what, if I keep going this way, I'm not going to be the person that I am meant to be, that I was born to be, that I was created to be.
Yeah. And that's a difficult, it is a big
Yeah,
challenge,
it's
especially,
not easy. Yeah.
yeah, when you get to people that are closer to you, if, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
family or very close friends, and
Mm-hmm.
you realize that
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
that's as far as it goes in terms of,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's very difficult. It's a big challenge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when you do it, it's
It's
opens up
very
a whole,
rewarding.
it
Exactly.
is,
When you
yeah,
do it,
it's,
sometimes you step later after you've done it, and you step back and you've been able to achieve that, you can think to yourself, wow, how come I didn't think to do? Why didn't I do it all of this time? How come I didn't think to do this? And you think about all the time that you have wasted in
yeah,
things and situations that you should not have given your time. And you're thinking, why didn't I think about? You want to sort of like whack yourself on the head and think, why didn't I think about? Why did it take so long for me to come to this?
that's right. That's right.
That's why they say,
Yeah,
don't like knowing, that's why, knowing yourself takes, it takes courage,
yeah.
to really go into yourself because you're going to have to divest yourself of so many things. And,
Hmm.
stepping away from things that you've become accustomed to, it's not easy because they're like habits. Like
Hmm.
again, I use withdrawal syndromes. Like people, if people are in alcohol, you're like the alcoholics that are drinking, and then you need to win them from that. It's very uncomfortable for for
Yeah.
for for them. And you look how hard it is. And then if you're on the outside looking in, you're tempted to think, but what is wrong with them? Can they not see that that's maybe killing them?
Yeah.
But you don't know that stepping is no longer, when something has overtaken you, it's not easy. I'm kind of like
Mhm.
using that maybe in a way it's easy to, because when you think about stepping away from something, we tend to think about stepping away things that are like vices, But what
Right.
about relationship? We don't look at that, on constructive,
Hmm.
relationship. They are kind of like it's a vice, a relationship
Yes.
in which that is not contributing positively to your life, or
Yeah.
that you may not even be contributing positively to. You cannot,
Yeah.
we don't often see that it's also a vice. It's a vice that's also destructive, because when you're in that kind, it chips away from you, takes away from your confidence, takes away from the person that you're not even able to see straight. You're not
That's right.
even, if you have dreams, you're not even, because when you're in a circle that you should not be, you
Mm-hmm.
don't turn away from your life path, and you're following a path that others who are probably sometimes it might even be stronger than you are saying, okay, this is a path that you follow. And once you
Yeah,
begin to follow that path, the way paths are, when you step away from one path and onto another path, you begin a journey. And so if you're beginning a journey on a path that's not meant for you, it means you've walked away from your path.
that's
And
right.
the farther you go, the farther you go, you are, the farther the journey, the farther you go from who you are supposed to be, who you were
Yeah,
created to be.
yeah. It takes a lot of work. Oh, yeah, and I find it takes more energy to get back into it
Mhm,
afterwards as well.
mhm. Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Mhm.
You have several books and they all carry, I love your books. They carry a very powerful message. There's a diversity of messages in it. That's what I love. You're such a great, I have to say it, you're a great storyteller, and it's just beautiful
Thank you.
how you put it
Thank
into
you.
words. But when would you say that you knew it was time for you to start writing, to put all of that onto paper?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so my story, it actually started, the writing thing. I never actually knew that I was going to write, but I've always loved to read. Reading,
Mhm.
I started to read when I was very, very, like, books were everything to me. They were my friends, my companion. They were actually like people that I could talk to about things that I could not speak to other people about. And at a point where I didn't even have someone that close to speak to certain things about me, books were everything to me.
Mhm.
And so I think the defining moment for me of writing was one time, actually, let me say the beginning of the moment for me was when I was doing an MBA. I never finished that because I was doing an MBA, and one day the lecturer asked us to write something to do with it, sort of like a little story around something. And apparently mine was really good, and he thought that I'd copied it from somewhere. And so he
Mm,
called me into his office and said, you know what, we take plagiarization very seriously. When we ask you to do a job, we expect you to do it, to be original. We don't expect you to take
mhm,
copy. And he just went on and on. I was just looking at him thinking, he didn't even ask me how I came by that. So when he was done talking, I thought to myself, how am I going to convince this man that I
mhm,
actually wrote that? What if I said he's going to look at me with suspicion, like, did she actually write that? So I said to him, I turned to him, I said, you know what? Pick anything on your desk, and I will write a story, write you on the spot. I'll write a story
mhm.
around that. And it was at that point that he realized. And then he then said, if you're so good in the way that you describe things that you actually can see, you describe it so well that people, it almost as if you're sitting there seeing the picture, like watching a television or something
Yeah.
on television. He said, so then why are you doing an MBA? And then he said, don't get me wrong, you're doing well. But why it seems obviously that your strength is in writing. Why are you doing an
Mhm.
MBA? And then I had to think to myself, so why am I doing an MBA? I'm very much passionate about people. I like to help people. I'm never
Yeah.
going to have the kind of balls, call it that, necessary to just like maybe even walk over a body to achieve that big business, whatever. And
Mhm.
then when he said that, I went back and thought, why don't I just take a course in writing? So I took a course in writing that was supposed to last 2 years, and I enjoyed it very much in creative writing. And then it was long distance. And after that, I now thought, by then I was like a little a year into my MBA. And I
Mhm.
decided, and it was actually, and by then I said, okay, I'm going to stop the MBA because it's a lot of money, obviously, to spend, and it's a lot of time studying. And by then, I was also a mother, and it was hard hill going, even to study for that. But because I
Mhm.
wanted it, I had to make time. So I said, let me study something that I know I'm really going to enjoy. And that's part of the self knowing. And you could say that I was in a journey of knowing without actually knowing. So
Yeah.
I stepped from that and I started a writing program, a master's with Falmouth University College, Falmouth University College in Cornwall in England. So that's how I stepped away to write. And then other things follow. No, but I'm not going to preempt the question. So I'll just get like sort of like we walk along and everything will unfold. And
Yeah.
actually, let me just say something about that writing, because one of my books, but he calls me blessed.
Hmm.
When the unbelievable happens to believers. I don't know if you can see that very well.
Absolutely.
It was a thesis of that master program. This was
Hmm.
my thesis of that master uh, program, and something happened along that when I was writing. Why I even started writing that, and it was around a family member who lost from my husband's family who lost a husband, and the man was not even ill. He wasn't
Oh.
even ill, and so he went to work one day. It was very snowy day, lots of snow on the ground, and nobody will ever know what happened. And so when he went into a tunnel, whether he lost control, whether he was tired because he had been away all day, he had series of meetings, he had to drive back and forth. Maybe he
Yeah.
just slept, maybe he just sort of like fell asleep for just a minute, and he went straight into a wall and he died on the spot. And for me, when I went, because I used to discuss with the wife about faith, everything around, we talked about faith, the importance of faith, and all of that. And so when I went to see her, I was already worried in my mind, like, what am I going to tell this woman? Do you say to someone, God is good? How do you say that in the midst of
You're right.
something like that? What am I going to say to a person like that when I get there? I
Hmm.
was so worried. But you know the most amazing thing? When I got there, God is really amazing. I know that faith is very important to me, but so you're going to hear a lot about God and spirituality and all of that and faith. But anyway, I was really amazed. It was really amazing because when I stepped into this woman's home, the first thing she said to me, before even saying to me thank you, before even her giving me a chance to hug her, the first thing she said to me, Sarah, you know what? God is going to take care of me and my kids. She has two children. She said, I know that it didn't happen to punish me. God did not happen so that because it's nothing. I know this happened for a reason. And the
Hmm.
reason would be it's not to punish me. So I know that God loves me. I know He's going to take care of me and my children. And I was so humbled by that,
Wow.
Danielle. And I was like, I came away thinking this was high. I went there to comfort her, but I came away comforted. That I was like, it was such an eye opener. And always thought I was a strong person of faith. And I thought to
Hmm.
myself, if that had happened to me, would I have had the courage or even the deep Bible belief to say words like that at a time like that? You never know. Because I said, where do you get that thing? Where does that come from inside of you to say something like that at a time like this? Something so powerful with such a deep belief. And so when I walked away from that, I knew that I had to put that on paper. But funny enough, that story is not even in this book, but
Hmm.
it was a catalyst, you know, to
Yeah.
writing this book. Because when I came away from that, I started asking myself, so what makes a difference between becoming better as a result of experience, the same experience that has
Hmm.
made other people bitter? You see, what's that? What's that thing? What's that difference between becoming not just good for yourself, better for yourself, but for your community? Because to be better, the real success of any life, to be better, it means you have to better for someone else because it's not just about you. So what that
Right.
make that difference? And I knew that I had to. And I started researching stories of people like that. And I started saying, I need to write that story. I need to write a story about powerful overcomers of people who have gone through like situations that you cannot even begin to imagine, but who have
Right.
allowed those situations to make them not just better for themselves, but for the society and their world, the world around them.
Hmm.
So that was, I think, all of those in combination and a few other things. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
caused me.
And that
To,
it is always fascinating when you hear, because you're right that you can very much become bitter about
mm-hmm,
life or your faith or
mm-hmm,
anything when you're
mm-hmm,
thrown into situations like this. So
mm-hmm,
it's very
yeah,
powerful.
yeah.
Um, you do a lot of you speaking events and things like this. Can you kind of share with us some of the transformations that you've seen in people that have read your books or have interacted with you through your messages?
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm so grateful for what I do. And of course, as a writer, oftentimes when I tell people that I write, the first thing some people tell me, people who are really like very courageous, I think, they said, so how do you make a living from that? And sometimes I have to think in my life to myself, like, okay, I haven't baked bread yet, but
Yeah.
but the thing is that I love what I do. And I used to say to myself, if I did not write, I would not know what to do. If I could not write, I would not know what to do. Because as a result of my writing, people have reached out to me, people that I would never have met. And one of
Yeah.
the amazing ones that I would never forget was this woman. She wrote me from Nigeria. I never met her. And she had been trying to have a baby. Apparently, she had been married a long time, tried to have a baby many times and could not have a baby. And so I think she and her spouse decided to do an IVF, and they had put everything. Money was not a plenty, so they put everything that they had into it because they thought this is it, in with everything we have. And then
Yeah.
the day they got the result, that it wasn't. So she said she felt broken the day
Hmm.
they got the result. And she, at the same time, she had her appointment. And she was like, how do I explain to someone that? So she just decided to go. I guess she just wanted to get out of the house and not be herself. She said when she got there, in waiting for her own turn to come, she picked up a magazine, started flipping through it, and she came across one of because at that point my story was being serialized in this a lifestyle magazine. So there
Okay.
were like parts and parts of the story, and she came across one of the story, and it happened to one of the stories in this book called Sylvana Stories, also about barrenness, about
Hmm.
this woman who went through terrible thing for 16 years, lost babies, IVF. You think about it, you name it, she had miscarriages, 12, I think in total, maybe if I'm not mistaken, either 16 years, 12 miscarriages, or 12 years.
Wow.
But anyway, in the book, there's and so, yes, you can imagine that. She said when she read that, it felt like someone had, like God had basically come down and like lifted her out of this dark hole that she was in.
Hmm.
And she said to me, you don't know who I am, but your story blessed me. Your story did something to me that I cannot, your book, explain. And she said, thank you very much for that. And I
Wow.
was so grateful that and over the years, I was so grateful that someone sent that. I felt connected to her. And over the years, Danielle, I've had messages like that sent to me by emails, people just searching me out on Instagram, or sorry, on email and sending me messages, and even Instagram. And sometimes and some of them are not even Christians. I've had a
Hmm.
man who is not even a Christian reach out. Somebody tried to sell him the book, and he was like, "Oh, this is Christian. I'm Islam." And his wife, they were also waiting for a baby. And
Oh.
um, and the person said, "Just buy for someone." And sort of maybe they were friends because maybe the person really wanted to just sell the book to them, a friend. And the man bought it, and he bought and read this book. And she said, a week later, he came back to buy 6 of the books, and he said the
Wow.
book ministered to someone, and this man was not even a Christian. And so when I hear stories like this, when you know about what you do, you feel we all say we want to contribute to our world. We want to be change makers. So when you
Yeah.
hear stories like this about what you do, it makes you feel that you are contributing to your world in one, and in little ways that you come. And for me, that is a life worth living. Yeah,
Yeah.
even when I don't make a loads of money. I think for me, when I listen to this, or when I read these emails, I'm really like very grateful that I am doing what
Hmm.
that. Mhm.
Yeah, it is. It is incredible because when you read you write the book, there's so much
Mhm.
technicality in it, and then
Mhm.
it's out there,
Mhm.
and you're moving
Yeah.
on to something else, and you don't realize
Mhm.
that it
Mhm.
actually is
Yeah.
how
Mhm.
powerful it can be for
Mhm.
somebody. That is incredible.
Exactly. It's very,
Before,
books are very spiritual. I see them as very spiritual. I've always loved to read. Like they can lift you out of the most, like the things you can't share. You can read just, it could just be a text in the book. And you
yeah,
will come away feeling as if you're walking on air, like something really powerful. And just being able to put that down, I know that it's a blessing to someone. And there's another thing actually, before I actually was writing, I used to feel that I had a dream one time where in the dream, it was like I was speaking to a crowd of people. I know it was a crowd of women, and it was a full hall.
mm,
And every one of them was listening to what I had to say because they were all cheering me on. But in that dream, I was shown this woman at the corner on my right hand side. She was, and I can tell exactly to the pews where she was sitting on. And in that dream, a voice said to me, "Your words are for her. Everyone may be
oh,
listening, but your words are for her." And then I came away thinking that, oh my God, so what I'm doing is not just random. I'm
mhm,
doing my words, certain things that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I'm doing exactly what I was meant to do. Whether my word, because whether my words are taken by one person or two persons is actually even irrelevant, because each person that the word reaches, that person carries not just him, his or herself, but other people, because those are generations. They have generations
yeah,
embedded in that one person. Because if you're a woman and you're going to get married, you have your own children, and your children will have children, you have grandchildren, you have friends. So
mm,
whatever you can learn, whatever that you take from that, it goes, you also distributing them. So the words that you put down in books, they are like spirits, they are like
yeah,
messengers, they go out there. So it's beyond you, it's much
yeah,
more than who you are. And so that's why actually, even when you write as a writer, when you put words down, you have to be very conscious of the things that you put down, because you're sending them, they're like messengers that you're sending. They're going to go there. So your words are either, they're also like the spoken words, because when you speak words, they are going to go out there. They're either going to make grow, or they're going to
yeah,
pull down. So when you write stuff, especially people who write inspirational things, or inspirational people who are inspirational writings, you have to be conscious that the words that you put down, they're either going to pull up, or they're going to pull
yeah,
out,
yeah,
or pull down rather. They pull up or they pull down. And so when I'm able to hear words like that, I'm kind of grateful that
yeah.
the little words that I'm able to pen, they can have that kind of impact. Yeah.
Mhm. No, that's amazing. Before we
Mhm.
start talking about your new book series, I'd like to know what would you say are two things that you're grateful for?
Oh, wow. Two things that I'm grateful for. First of all, without even thinking a second, I'm very grateful for my children. I'm really
Hmm.
grateful. I'm grateful for the family that I come from. I'm grateful for the mother. Because, it's like a handing over. I wrote a book called The Old Woman Who Refused to Die. And
Oh
when
yes,
people
it's my
hear me,
favorite. Yeah.
when they read about the title, they're like, oh my God, that's a very funny title. But there's so much embedded in the title. It's not just about the funny, whatever title, it's about proper handing over.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for my root. I'm grateful for my grandmother, for my mother, for my father. Those three, they put something in me that at a
Hmm.
time in my life where I didn't even know how my life was going to turn out, at a very difficult time in my life, the things that they put in me were like a guiding light for me. And so when I say I'm grateful, I'm really grateful for my root. My mother was an extraordinary woman. I can't even go on and what. And then my grandmother, you know, they were like, so when I think about the things that I put in there, when I said today that I'm grateful for my children, I'm grateful for how they've turned, it's because what they gave to me, I transferred. And
Mm-hmm.
God has been so faithful that He's allowed the transformation to stick, to bear fruit. That not
Yeah.
only did I plant in them, God was amazing that He caused that plant to grow, to bloom, and then to
Mm-hmm.
bear fruit in my kids. So I'm grateful for my children. The second thing I'm grateful for is to do with my childhood. When I was 8 years old, I put that a little bit in some of my books. Actually, those are some of the foundations of the way that I believe. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
things that when I was 8 years old, I was fostered by my mother's brother and the wife.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle was a very very brilliant guy. Went to school, Ivy League University. So he wanted to foster me. I guess he wanted to sort of like put in me also what had been put in him by family. But my uncle was a very bookish person, very quiet guy. But his
Mm-hmm.
wife was a different matter altogether. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
when they took me to Lagos. I come from Akwa Ibom, that's in the southern part of Nigeria, and they took me to Lagos. And at that time, traveling from the area from my to Lagos was like easily could go 16 hours,
Mm.
And the idea of the foster was that I would be with them until I was 18. And the time I was with them, I was not going to be allowed to go on back and forth because they needed me to be focused and get used to making that my new home. And so when I got there to Lagos, one day a friend came to visit, my auntie, and then my uncle's wife, my auntie, of course, and then looked around and I guess looked at me and thought I was a very smart child based on whatever she'd asked and what she observed of me. And she said to me, "Oh, what would you like to be when you grow up?" And
Yeah.
I looked at her and said, I would like to be a doctor because at that time, I grew up from Nigeria. And in Nigeria, even to this day, say mothers want their children to be three things: to study law so you can be a lawyer, study medicine so you can be a doctor, or study engineer so you can be an engineer. So to a typical Nigerian woman, then even
Mm-hmm.
now, the point it's changed a bit now, but then to a typical Nigerian woman, to say that their son or their daughter is a doctor was like, wow, big thing. Or my
Yeah.
daughter is a lawyer. What is your child? Well, half a lawyer, half a doctor. And actually, this auntie of mine wanted her children to be doctor, lawyer. She like picked out what she wanted her kids to be. So I
Mm.
said I wanted to be a doctor. And so I was actually looking at my auntie, feeling very, little girl, I was 8, waiting for her to kind of like pat me on the back and say, "Oh, wow, smart little girl, you know what?" And my auntie looked at me like, and I could tell as a little child, as kids, you can tell someone is displeased with you, but you don't know why. And
Yeah.
so when the visitor left, she called me and she said, "So what did you say you want to be again when you grow up?" And I said, "A doctor," also very, very excited. And she looked at me from head to toe and she said, "For such an insignificant, useless, stupid little girl,
Mm.
you really have grand ideas." And I tell
Wow.
you, Danielle, and throughout the time I stayed with them for almost 7 years, this auntie called me stupid, useless, idiot, I mean, worthless, anything that on a daily basis, several times a day, like on a daily basis. And The Fearful from Fears, the book that I write, which is my brand, comes from
Mm-hmm.
that. Because no matter how great you are, how fantastic if someone tells you on a daily basis, especially as a child, these are your formative years, and they tell you you're stupid, useless, at a point you're going to even act, you will believe you're stupid, or even start to act stupid, because
Yeah.
it's a subliminal message to put in your head and say you're stupid, useless. And so anywhere along the way, the woman did everything. I mean, it was so bad that even our own sister, our own sister, the same mother, the same father, used to tell her, "Don't be mindful how you treat this child because you don't know what this child will be in the future. The way that you
Mm-hmm.
treat this child, if you don't want her to be in your home, send her back to her parents. Even if it's your husband's son, you can just give any excuse. You want, but send her, our own sister." So to know. Anyway, sometime later, when I left, she did everything to prevent me from studying, because studying was also something I love very much. I wanted to go to school, and this was
Mhm.
why they brought me. But she looked for everywhere not to get me. And because my uncle was quite, he basically not just, I would never say that he went along with the kind of abuse, because I was spit on, I was beaten, I was like pinched, like
Yeah.
you name it, I was spat on a daily, like basically I was spat on often, like I was seriously.
Wow.
But anyway, so along the way, I left, and almost 7 years later, I left. It's a different journey. You can read that in my story. One of my books is called God Does Not Make Stupid. There's a reason for that title, the
Mm,
whole
mm,
journey of the process. But when I went away, and years later, when she had determined that she wanted our daughter to be a lawyer, I mean, sorry, a doctor, our first daughter. And so my cousin went to school for 6 years.
mhm.
And one day, our father was into maths, love figures a lot. One of those usual people that you say this, that, and stop, and they give you answers. So the daughter picked that sort of like genetic, whatever, predisposition to figures. And so, but the mother forced her to go to medical school. But 6 years into medical school, my cousin said, I'm not doing it again. I want to go do accounting. And the mother said, if you cannot go to medical school, we are not paying for you. You're not, so you
Mm,
can find your way. And my cousin felt lost. So at that point, she sought me out and came to me. This was years after we had not gone our separate ways, and they did it, but they had heard that things were good for me. She sought me out. And you know
mm.
that I paid her school fees to go to. I paid the university for her to
Ah,
go back to accounting school. Even later, when she had to do what they call specialization, what we call ICANN in Nigeria, I encouraged her. I gave her money to do the specialization. Anyway,
mm,
why am I giving this story? Is that because you asked what I'm grateful for? I had to give you the background for you to understand. Why am I giving this story? Is that years later, when she came back, when people then heard, because later people then heard what she had done to me when I went her back home, people were coming to me and said, how is it that you have something in your mind to even pay school fees for a woman who did everything to prevent you from going to school? How is it
yeah.
that you're not angry? Why would you? How is it that you can even allow someone like that to come into your home? And I say,
Mhm.
why not that family? I'm grateful. The one thing that I'm very grateful that I was not bitter. I
Mhm.
didn't. So that's exactly what I'm grateful for. It would have been very easy for me to become bitter and say, oh, she did this thing to me. Now that let me show her that, without her, I could be something. But I tell you, Danielle, sometimes I was, yes, I've been surprised at myself. There's series of things that I did for the entire family that
Mhm.
nobody can understand. I've had family members come to me and say, where do you find the heart to do that for them, to help them in such way? But I was not bitter. So I am grateful to God that God preserved my heart. And I think it's a special grace. It is
Yeah.
not easy to go through that and not be bitter at the person who put you through that. But God took my heart. I had to go through that because God, for whatever reason, He knew that for the person that I was going to be in the future, I needed to walk that road. Because
Yeah.
how can you come tomorrow and write books like "Who are you?" or "Be yourself" and "Know yourself"? You cannot walk a road. You cannot encourage someone who is walking that road properly and passionately and with feeling unless you've walked that road. And so God
Exactly.
knew that I was going to write these books at this time, and He allowed me to walk that road so that I will have something to give. Back to what I
Mhm.
was saying, you cannot give what you don't have. If you want to be an encourager, how can you be when you've never been discouraged yourself to understand what it means? So He allowed me to walk that road. But in allowing that to happen, He took my heart and covered it with His love so that I would not be bitter. Because if I had been bitter, the things that I do today, I would not be able to do. The help that I've
Yeah.
rendered to people, I would not have been able to do. Even then, even for myself, I would have been a bitter, angry, like whatever. That's not to say that the things that happen that I don't look back and think, wow, things like that. But I look at it as a human being that says, oh, that happened. I don't look
Yeah.
at it with bitterness. So I know that I've gone on and on. I tend to go on and on. You have to stop me. Sometimes when I talk,
No,
I just say, okay, Sarah, enough now, enough. Okay, done with that question. Let's move on. But I had to give you the context because if you don't, I don't give you context, you don't understand. You can just say, I'm grateful. Why are you grateful for that? You say, okay, but why? So I needed to give you that context. So I'm
no, of
grateful for
course.
my children. I'm grateful that I was not bitter as a result of a situation that was meant to break me. I'm really
Hmm.
grateful. Yeah, those
That's
are.
amazing. And you're not going on and on. That's the beauty of a storyteller is there's always a story behind it. So don't worry. It was a wonderful.
Yeah, like I say, I'm a
And
storyteller, right? I mean, storyteller,
yeah,
I use my life story, like I build the story. I mean,
yeah. And like you say, you can't go on writing books about the journey of self-discovery or all of that if you
mhm,
haven't lived it.
mhm,
And a lot of
mhm,
people tend to not tell their story because
mhm,
they're either, like you said, they're either bitter about it, they don't want to bring it up, but sometimes
mhm,
it does resonate with somebody. It might not be the exact same situation, but the
mhm,
feelings are
mhm,
the same. And that they
mhm.
know that they can move past it. So
Yeah.
it's important to tell those stories.
You
Yeah.
know something my grandmother used on that note again, something my grandmother used to say. My grandmother used to say so many things that I'm using so many of her quotes in my book. But she was this kind of woman who would just give you, if you ask her, like, grandma, what is it? She would tell you a story or bring you a quote and said, if you don't understand that, then you're not ready to understand the wisdom I'm
Hmm.
going to impart. If you can understand the quote or the idiomatic expression, then it means you're ready, to.
Yeah.
And she used to say something. She used to say, she said, success that does not help others, that make other people successful is meaningless. And if
Yeah.
you're rich and your wealth does not help lift other people out of poverty, then your wealth is meaningless. And then she rounded up by talking about this. I always call it the river story. And my
Mhm.
grandmother used to say, like, a river is not you cannot properly say river. A river is just a pond. If it does not take, because a river must take from other rivers in order for it to and give to other rivers. So if
Right.
a river that takes from other rivers and refuses to allow into other rivers, then that river is a pond. And she will always say anything in a pond,
Hmm.
it's not life-giving. A point is that even if something that's living in a pond, it's not actually something that you want to take close
Yeah.
to yourself. Because anything that's in the pond is just tadpoles and little whatever that you're not, even if you're saying fish, you're not going to eat it, like saying, okay, Lord, those are disgusting things. So
Yeah.
when you're a river, when you've been given something, how you know that the thing that you've been given by your creator, by God, that you're making use of it is when you pass it on. So
That's
if
right.
you've been given the ability to encourage and you keep it to yourself, then you're doing your maker injustice.
Hmm.
You're not meant to be given to yourself. Everything that you're not alone in the world. We are in the
Hmm.
universe to be part of one another's life. So if you're in the universe and you've given the ability to encourage, and then you don't pass that, you're stealing from the universe. You're doing injustice to your maker, to the one who gave you the gift in the first place.
Yeah.
And so that's how I see when I have certain things that I've gone through, and they've been quite tough, but I
Hmm.
look at them in a sense of a class half full. That's not to say I'm super like perfect. I don't feel the pain. Of course, I feel the pain because I'm human. But besides feeling the pain, at the back of my head, it's always like, God, what do you want me to learn as from this pain? This terrible thing that I'm going through, this heartache, my heartache, I'm a sensitive soul. Even though I have this kind of strong persona that, this
Hmm.
exterior that seems like, oh, like what do you call but the boss bitch, like sort of like actually I'm a sensitive person. I feel I have such deep compassion. I feel deep
Hmm.
compassion for people, and I tend to, so when I go, like I always like, it's painful, Lord. I'm going through, but what am I meant to learn from the and how do I give this out? And
Yeah.
that's why writing what I do matters so much to me, you know,
Hmm.
not
That's
always making huge money, barely some of them, but they matter to me. I want to leave this world at the end of my life. I want to be able to say, well, I left something that, even if it's just bless that one, two people, they're not just one because there are lifetime value. Generations are going to come. through that. And those people will be blessed by what they too have been blessed,
Yeah.
or yeah.
That's,
Mhm.
yeah, those are great things to be thankful for. Let's talk about your book series. When I saw that when you
Oh
first
my
started talking
God.
about it,
Okay.
it is
Okay. So
uh,
the two books I'm talking about, this book is called Who Are You If You're Not You? If you're an egg, be a perfect egg. Don't strive to be an eggplant. 12 tips on how to become the best version of you. And how the series started actually. Like everything else, I always say that. I mean, it's been said by others, I'm not the only one. But some of the biggest impacts you make in life, Danielle, they are going to come out of some of your biggest challenges.
yeah,
They're
that's
going to
right.
come out of some of the most heart-rending pains if you allow
Mhm.
it. If you allow it. Like I said, when we talk about glass full, glass empty, if you see your challenges as something to learn, life vital lessons from, mindset is everything. And so the book happened last year. I mean, it didn't happen last year. I had this idea for these books this year actually and finished them. But last year I lost my mother. My mother
Mhm.
was the rock of our home, really, truly a rock. And so when I lost her and then went for burial, after I came back, at that time I was actually writing the book I told you, God Does Not Make Stupid. And I'll tell you how that title came about also at a point. And when I came home, I wanted to continue. I just could not find a thing in me to write. I would take my laptop to the cafe that I sat to, I said to
Mhm.
read, to write, and at the end I would write nothing. It was a very, very painful period. Still is. To lose a mother is something really
Yeah.
terrible. And then I was in a rut. I could not move. It was like physically stuck in a place. And then sometime in February, I joined this Christian faith praise worship. It's organized. It's called Hallelujah Challenge. It's organized by this gospel minister. His name is Nathaniel Bassi. He's very well known all over the world, and he does this thing called Hallelujah Challenge, where we praise and worship God at midnight for about 1 hour, sometimes about four times a year, depending on how it's led by the Spirit. And then on one night, on day 9, because it's usually some of it is like 24 days, sometimes 14 days. And on day 9th of this particular one, in February of 2022, this year actually, on the 9th, he started talking about prophesying about something about birth, that God is going to cause us to give birth and have babies. And in my mind, I was like, God, I've been praying about getting me out of the road. Babies are not it. I don't want to have a baby. I've put 2 kids enough. They are not it. And then just as I was saying that, on my mind, he now said, it's not just babies alone, physical, that babies can actually be the birthing, the pregnancy of great ideas. If you're
Mhm.
looking for greater, you're asking God that is perfect. That this time God will give you amazing ideas that you run with. And Daniel, I had been praying to God to give me ideas, great ideas that would take me, even if it meant leaving what I was working. And one night after the challenge, this
Mhm.
was the challenge ended around end of February, and I was still praying, thinking, okay, where are the manifestations of my own prayers? One night I was sleeping, and I came
Mhm.
awake. You know how you come awake when you are sleeping and you're like, I just had a dream. And the dream was around babies, that either I had babies or someone had something around babies. But I was trying to remember. And I think that wasn't the point. As soon as I came awake and I'm thinking, oh, babies, ideas, what? An idea came on my mind to write the book
Mhm.
on the importance of self-knowing as a factor in achieving success of any kind. Came from out of
Mhm.
the blue. Nowhere. This was 2 in the morning. So it's not
Wow.
exactly the time. I could not like say that, oh, I was thinking and then sort of like mulling over things, and it was just came out, and I knew that God had given me this idea. And as soon as that idea came, I always have my laptop by my bedside. I'm a writer after all. So I picked up the letter, turn it on. I mean, sorry, the computer, turn it on, and I started writing things. It was like someone was telling me the things, exactly how the structure was going to take,
Mhm.
how I was going to. And I started writing 2 in the morning. By 7 the following morning, which was the same morning, but following of the same month by 7, I had 30% of the first book.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's a pocket-sized book, but I mean, but there's nothing pocket-sized about it. I know I was inspired. I had 30%, and from there I
Mm.
just started writing. And halfway with to finishing the first, I had idea. That was when I knew it was going to be a trilogy. I had idea, but for the book part two, I started writing this book in April. By September of 28th, I had done presentation. I had written, like a proofread the book, send it to my editor, done everything, done the cover themselves. The covers are another
Wow.
story. Done the covers, gone to the artists, had them because the covers they represent. It had to be exactly because I had an idea exactly what the covers were because the covers they represent everything. It's about
Mhm.
this one, who are you if you're not you, and it's about
Yeah.
this. Look at this egg. So don't strive to be an eggplant if you're an egg. And so you have this main egg, wants to be an eggplant, and he's turning purple on the top and then his feet, and he's thinking, oh, I've succeeded in becoming an eggplant. But he has cracks. All of the cracks down the body of the egg, they're intentional. But
Mhm.
he doesn't realize that in trying to be who is not meant to be, there are cracks running through him. He thinks he has succeeded. And you have the other egg standing around and looking and thinking, what the heck? What who does he think he is? It's not an
Yeah.
eggplant. He thinks it's an eggplant. And he's looking all arrogant, thinking that I've
Mhm.
succeeded. That's the idea that I was given to write this book. The importance of authenticity, of being
Mhm.
who you are created to be. If that's not inspired, I mean, I don't know what, because I certainly could not have come up. I had no idea. I wrote this book and I started writing. I know out of this book, I had book presentation, two major presentations. I had a presentation in September and I had a presentation first of this in December. And
Mhm.
now the third part of the book, it's done. I sent it to my editor and I'm waiting for it to come out. This between April and now, September, I mean, November, December, that's like less than like 8 months or less. Look,
Mhm.
I've written three books,
That's
published them,
incredible.
had a presentation on them. So that's inspiration. I was inspired. And not just that, out of this book, and I have podcasts, and then I start to speak, and then I start to now know where I'm going with it, that I need
Mhm.
to. I thought the audience was going to be, all that, but okay, I'll come to that. But that's just what the book From Fearful to Fierce.
Yeah.
It's more From Fearful to Fierce trilogy. There's From Fearful to Fierce book that's coming, but this is a trilogy, a series on the importance of self-knowing. Like know
Yeah.
yourself in order to become, the best, version of you. You cannot be anything if you don't know you. Like if you tell someone, oh, I'm going to be the best writer tomorrow, but you don't even know who Sarah is. How can you be the best of what you don't even know?
Yeah.
Or tomorrow I'm going to go out there and impact the world. How can you impact when you don't even know who is impacting, who is doing the impacting, if you
Yeah.
don't even know who Danielle is? You
Mhm.
see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's the idea around like the FTF, the current
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah. That's so great. I just love it. It just comes together and it's just beautiful.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
wanted to ask you, because I love asking this question for people because there's so much going on. You're always busy. You're everywhere. How do you find balance in your life between work, between writing, between family, between just taking time for yourself and not get lost in all of it? How do you find the balance?
How do you find balance? Well, the balance is knowing that you're not one linear.
Mhm.
Like, for example, you're
Yeah.
Danielle, you do podcasts, but that's not all who you are. And so you're
Yeah.
Danielle, you're a mother, you're probably a mother, you're a friend, you're someone's lover, call it, you belong to a community. And
Yeah.
all of these things are part of who you are, who Danielle is. And so if you're a mother, for example, and you're also a child to someone,
Mhm.
you have a place in your heart to love your mother, but at the same time you have a place in your heart to love your own child, and at the same time to love your spouse, at the same time to be a friend to your friends. You're not
Yeah.
one linear. And so when you talk about how do you find balance? Finding balance is just part of who you are. That's what life is about. It's about who
Hmm.
you are. It's a little like the universe, for example, if someone were to find the universe, go to the universe and say, "Oh wow, this universe, you have winter, you have summer, you have spring." Like these are all very extremes. How are you able to be all of these things and you're just one universe? And if the universe were to answer, the universe would say, "Well, that's why I'm a universe. That's why I'm the universe. I'm the universe because I have all of these things. That's what makes me a universe. I
Yeah.
in it I contain the I contain winter, I contain summer, I contain all of this. If you were to take
Mhm.
summer out of me, then something vital is missing from me. And so, because
Okay.
I'm the universe, I'm able to manage all of the parts of who I am because that's what I'm supposed to do. So, when you
Yeah.
ask, I'm always a little surprised when people ask someone and say, "How do you find?" I mean, it's a beautiful question, but I'm saying
Yeah.
that that's you find balance because when you recognize who you are, you find
Hmm.
balance. You know that you're not one linear. They are all aspects of you, and these
Yeah.
aspects of you makes you, and these aspects of you, they make you who you are. So Danielle being a mother, Danielle being a friend, a daughter, a mother to another, a friend, a lover, whatever, a part of a professor, an educator. An
Yeah.
educator who is Danielle does not mean that it's going to that educator cannot operate as a mother. Does not mean that
Hmm.
Danielle cannot operate as a friend just because she's an educator. When it's time for her to wear the hat of an educator, she steps into that role and wears that hat and operates, based on that. And when she's done with that, she goes home, she becomes a mother, takes care of her kids. And after she's done with that, she goes on then to become a wife. All of these roles, they make you who you are.
Hmm.
For example, if you were to say, "I'm a career person," and then you let go of your home front and you're not able to find a way to make that work, even when your career works and you're successful at it, when you go home and look at your home front and you see that your children are probably not the way that you would like them to be, guess what? Your success is going to sour in your mouth because you're going to think something is not quite right here.
Right.
And then again, if you're a Danielle and your mother, you don't all you want to do as a mother, and you want to be a career person, and somehow you don't find a way to make that fit, it's going to
Hmm.
also have a little bit of sour, leave a little bit of your sour in your mouth because that's what you want. So
Yeah.
finding balance is in understanding that I have a role to play as a wife. I have to play it. I have a role to play as a mother. I have a role to play as someone's child. I have a role to play as someone's friend. I'm going to make that work because I am Danielle. I am not one linear. I'm a human being that contains all of this. I'm like the universe with all
Yeah.
of the things that make the universe the universe.
Hmm.
That's the way I see balance. I do what I
I
have to do because I'm not one linear.
I love that. I really love it. That's why I love asking that question to people because you never get the same answer. But I love that if you are truly authentic and you're really embracing who you are and not what everybody
Mhm.
expects you to be, the balance just
Exactly.
comes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
see that you just said it. Like when it's only when you run after things, like the
Yeah.
important thing is in knowing that you want to be,
Yeah.
whether you want to be a mother, want to be a career person. If all you
Hmm.
want to do that is to focus on being a mother, like a full mother, and take a job like a part-time, you should not then run around and say, "I want to be a ball ass, whatever,
Yeah.
boss lady." If you're running after that kind of life because someone else is doing it and you see them doing it, guess what? You're not, and they are successful and they are happy. You're not going to be
Yeah.
happy because that's not who you are created to be. So the
Yeah.
balance is knowing who you are and knowing that you're composed on all of this. And then when you want it and know, based on the knowledge, your knowledge of yourself, that you
Yeah.
fit this. Know that you have to make them fit
I
because
love
you're
it.
not. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm taking that wisdom with me. I love it. It's just so easier to understand and not to be too hard on ourselves when we do feel a
Uh-huh.
little out of balance because it's something that's
Mhm.
going against who you
Mhm.
are. So
Mhm.
I love that.
Mhm.
What okay, you talked a little bit about your trilogy with the new books, but what are you working on right now? What's next for Sarah?
Okay. Oh, well, I've just finished. I've just sent off my the third of the trilogy called Be You, And
Hmm.
so of course you have the first one says, Who are you if you're not you? And the second one says, So you know you. Now what? And
Yes.
the third one is you. So someone was asked me, there's something in the book. Someone was saying, like, you put one and say you've talked about who are you if you're not you? And then you talk about be you. And they said, is it not one and the same thing? And I said, no. Because
Hmm.
if you're talking about know who you are, if know you, and then you say be you, how can you be something that you don't know? So I
Yeah.
said, of course, it makes sense. When you talk about knowing who you are, it's to go into yourself and understanding Danielle, for example. Who is Danielle? Danielle can wear many hats, but deep inside, what matters to Danielle? Because who
Hmm.
you are, they're based on the values, what matters a lot to you. And your values are going to be different.
Hmm.
What matters to me is like, for example, if you say, for example, if I did not have friends in my life, I would not know how to live my life. If I did not have that crowd, there
Yeah.
are also other people who are very happy just to be by themselves. They are not very much into crowd. And if you're a crowd person, you're looking at them and thinking, how can they just be so alone and be happy? So
Right.
the thing there is in like is knowing. And so now it then asks, so now that you know you, so what next? So the idea
Yeah.
is that, is it okay to just say, okay, I know who I am as a Danielle. What do you do with that knowledge? Because
Yeah.
we are not no, you're not nobody's static.
Yeah,
Human
that's right.
beings, we are like fluid in the sense that you're meant to like constantly, I don't know to call it regenerate. The person
Yeah.
that you were yesterday is not who you are today. And the person you're going to be tomorrow is not definitely not who you are today. That's why when I say, for example, know who you are, 12 tips on how to become the best version of you. The best version
Yeah.
of you is constantly changing. And so the idea is to know you so that you can take that knowledge, what matters most, what your values are, and constantly make the best of yourself so that you
Hmm.
can become not just for yourself, but for because we are all custodians. That's how I see.
Yeah.
Every human being is a custodian. Think about it. If you are properly, if what you've been given custody of, if you're proper keeper of what you've been given custody of, the environment, the world around you will become better for it. Think of some of the terrible people that we find in our world. Because of
Hmm.
them, we have certain things, I don't want to go into, I don't want to mention them because it's quite obvious. But think of some of the biggest calamities of our world. You know,
Yeah.
they were started by someone who had something they were given, but they
Yeah.
didn't give it in a good way. And because of that, the world suffered. And every time a portion of the universe suffer for any the time span of the universe, it carries on to the next.
Yeah.
So that's basically so once you know who you are, what next? Is it okay to just say, okay, I know who I am now? That no, you have to constantly, it's not a question of like, it's not like you're looking at yourself and say, because somebody was saying, is it like because you're never satisfied? No, it's not about being never satisfied. It's about
Yeah.
knowing that you're not supposed to remain static. For example, you gave birth, you were pregnant, yeah, and you were very
Yeah.
joyful that you were pregnant. And then was it okay to say, okay, now I know I'm pregnant. That's it, sit down. Okay, I've achieved it. I'm a pregnant woman, not barren. No, you wanted to give birth to what you were pregnant with. And then you've given birth. Is it okay to say, oh, I've seen the face of my baby I love? Static, stay there, baby. No, you started to nurture the baby, to grow the
Yes.
baby. And the
Mhm.
baby now becomes an adult. And do you now say, oh, okay, hands off, finish? No, that person became a mother to someone, a parent to someone. So you constantly. So the idea really is that once you know who you are, what do you do with what you know? What next?
Yeah.
How do you use them? Not just to better yourself, but to better your environment. And the next one, the last one, the third in the trilogy is called Be You. So be
Mm-hmm.
you. Be who you were meant to be. I think that is very much self-explanatory. Don't
Yeah.
run away. Don't run after crowd. Don't be pulled along by crowd. Sometimes being you can be very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say it takes courage. But
Yeah.
if you are willing to do the work to say, you know what, I was born into the world not to even twins. Most twins who come, they come out separately, no? Even the ones who are identical twins, they're probably in the same sack. When they're coming and the both of them are not coming. So everyone comes into the world. I think that's a very, if we
Yeah.
need to know, a very spiritual, example of importance of authenticity. That
Mm-hmm.
we were created as an individual, beautiful person, standing on your own. You live with others, but you came in a unique person. That's a very typical spiritual understanding of uniqueness.
Yeah.
We lose that when we come into the world because of the things we say. Like everybody say you have to be this way, expectations, societal, family, social,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of expectations hip on you. And sometimes we live our life at the end, you're so lost and you start to think, what's the point of life? The moment you start to ask yourself, what's the point of everything? Then you're not living who you were created to live.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
It's beautiful. I
that's a
love
trend.
it. And that's what's amazing about this is there's a lot of people write about how to become you, how to find out who you truly are,
Mhm.
how to find your authentic self. But then you kind of left high and dry. You're just like, okay, so now I know who I am. Now what? And you take it
Exactly.
that step further. You take it further and say, okay, well, what does that look for you now? And then once you
Exactly.
figure it out, then okay, then be you. And I
Yeah.
love that. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like I could talk to you all day. I can't wait to see those books. Before I go, before we end this, I wanted to. It's a question I asked you. I like that you mentioned that earlier in your story when you were 8 years old. But I always ask the grown-ups this question because you said it again. We're continuously growing. We're continuously moving forward. So, what would you like to be when you grow up? So what does Sarah want to be now when she
I
grows
thought I
up?
was grown. What
No,
would I like to
no.
be when I grow up? Well, Danielle, I would like to be, unapologetically,
Yes.
undeniably, and fearlessly Sarah. Like the
Yeah.
Italians like to say basta at the end. Basta means enough, stop. There's no going further. So I want to
No.
be me because that's the whole point of the book. I want to be unapologetically because if you are who you are created to be, you'll be able to
Mhm.
also give out into the world.
That's right.
Undeniably, because if you're on the path of your life, it will not always be butter and sunshine.
Hmm.
You will bring out everything embedded in each of us. We have something
Yeah.
special. You'll be able to bring it and let it shine, and
Hmm.
fearlessly because, oh my God, Danielle, a lot of the barriers to our greatest inability to accomplish anything, to be who we're good, is because of fear. And
Yeah.
oftentimes those fears are fears of what someone would think of us. What would they
Hmm.
think? What would be their opinion? Fear of other people's opinion. If I do this,
Yeah.
what do they think this of me? And because of that, we put ourselves in a box. We nail ourselves in a box and we're not able to. And
Hmm.
so when I grow up, I would like to be unapologetically, undeniably, and fearlessly me, Sarah.
That's
Basta.
amazing. I love it.
I something that I want. Yeah, yeah. That's. I think that's. Mhm.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
all you need to be. Yeah.
and I pray that I'm able. Like this is always my prayer. I say, God, help me to be me. Help
Hmm.
me to be the person that you created. Help me not to It's a struggle, like I said, because I'm a people person. Help me to
Yeah.
constantly know that I can be in the crowd without being, you know, without being of the crowd. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. You
I
just don't
can
want
be
to
in
get
the crowd
influenced
without
by the
being
crowd.
of the crowd. I can be in the crowd and be that and can still be, I'm part of the crowd, I'm sitting, laughing, whatever, without being of the crowd. Of the crowd means that without wanting, I mean, be of the crowd and just being happy with who Sarah is. Listen, appreciate everyone, and then just be very, and not be afraid to be who I am, whatever. Because oftentimes, what you are, people are not going to be comfortable, especially me. I have a strong voice. I tend to have a strong personality. I know that. And oftentimes, I'm not going to be, people are not, I mean, I'm very careful. I don't like to hurt people. I try not to.
Mhm.
But sometimes people are not going to, people have their insecurities. Some
That's
people,
right.
when they have, especially with strong personalities, other people will have the insecurities rather than try to identify and deal with it. They're going to put it
Mhm.
upon you and think,
That's
oh,
right.
I'm that because. And so, in that case, if you're not careful, they make you walk away feeling
Hmm.
apologetic about you,
That's right.
apologetic about your person, and you walk away beating yourself and thinking, okay, what was I doing? No, as long as you walk, as long as you walk away from it and you're convinced you know yourself, the important thing is to assess your life, no,
Hmm.
and walk away. As long as you walk away knowing that I did not hurt anybody, I didn't do anything. So, and then even if you feel that you've done something untoward, you sincerely open your mind and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but I'm sorry if you take it. Convincing yourself, you can walk away with your head held high.
Hmm.
But you have to be you. You have to be you.
Yeah.
Mm.
No,
But
that's
life
wonderful.
is
I love it. Yeah. Now, how can people follow
I think
you or get in touch with you if anything like that? Where can you share? And I will put it in the comments and the description of
yeah,
the episode. But how
yeah.
can people
Okay.
reach you if they'd like
Okay. Like I said, my name is Sarah Udoh-Grossfurthner. The name is when Daniel puts it out there. My name is very kind of. I think my name is very unique. I'm a
to?
unique person, even if I say so myself. Anyway, just a joke. My name is very unique in the sense that even in Austria, with the name Grossfather, it's very, very rare. In fact, in Austria, my husband's husband, whatever family is probably they are probably the only ones with this name. And so
Okay.
when you take my name, Sarah, it's very common. Udo is very common from my area. But when you put that together, so if you go on LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Sarah Udo
Mm.
Grossford, I'm from Fearful to Fierce. I'm very active on Instagram. I have From Fearful to Fierce, which is focused specifically on my writing. I also have a private account, but From Fearful to Fierce. And then on also Facebook, From Fearful to Fierce. So whenever you see From Fearful to Fierce, that's my brand because it's my domain. I've bought that domain. So when you see From Fearful to Fierce, it's Sarah. And
Yeah.
then, of course, with the name Sarah Udoh-Grossfurthner now, if you clicked on that and say, like the old woman, let me take this one because it's more interesting because it's so catchy. It's easier for people to remember. So if you go there and say the old woman who refused to die on Amazon, and then you put the name and you see that you're going to have my books pop, 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 pop up. And so you
Yeah.
can buy that. Please buy my book and buy for Christmas.
Yeah.
Give people for gift as a present. I think it's a wonderful thing to give. Like the
Yeah.
trilogy, the
Absolutely.
to fear to fear astrology is a wonderful thing. And for those, I don't know for if there's a German person out there listening,
Mm.
one of my books is out in German, but He Calls Me Blessed is also out in German. Trust them being ich gesegnet. I mean, when you put my name, you have all my names, and then of course
Yeah.
the new books are coming. So I have two new books coming,
Okay.
like God Does Not Make Stupid. It's a
Hmm.
very, very special book. This is an in-depth of my life story from when it all began when I was
Yeah.
eight. So that would next year. That's a project from next year. And then of course I do some podcasting and do a little talk, little bits of video. So yeah, you can get me. But please buy my book, so please, so that I can
Absolutely.
have these contents that
Yeah.
are empowering. So we can work this part together and help
Yeah.
become the best version of ourselves.
That's right. That's right. And yes, you do want to buy our books. There are absolutely, like I said, there's a diversity of powerful messages in all of the books. So absolutely, you need to go on Amazon and get them. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Like I said, I could talk to you forever. But we do have to close the episode. But thank you so much, and well, definitely you're always invited to come back on whenever you can.
Thank
And
you. I mean, it's such a
yeah,
pleasure to talk to you. And you, Danielle, like I said, such
thank
a
you.
pleasure to just come in here. I think that even I would have been at my watch, but it's such a joy to
Mm,
talk with you. I'm really, really super happy. We're
thank you.
in the same circle, so to say. And
Yeah,
yes, it's just, like apart from just
you.
being my podcast creator, like
No, it's definitely my beautiful sister.
Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. Thank you. And for everybody who is listening and watching, don't forget again to like, follow, or subscribe to the channel you're watching us from or listening to us from. And that way you can get notifications. And don't forget to look at the description or the comments below. I will add all of Sarah's information there so you can follow her as well. So thank you again. And for everybody listening and watching, until next time, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.